Hello guys, and welcome to the first episode of Analog Photography in Depth. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Fotokor-1, which is a Russian 9x12 field camera made in formerly Leningrad. Comes in the neat box like this, and the camera is again a compact box. To unfold it, you press this knob on the top, which unlocks the folding bed, locks into place. Then you squeeze these two knobs and you can pull out the front standard until it locks, and this is how the camera looks when it's unfolded. While this is the Fotokor-1, a specific model, it's basically representative of all 9x12 cameras. The difference will be mainly the lens. This lens is a 135mm f4.5, and 4.5 is really the an aperture that you want, because then the image on the ground glass is gonna be bright enough to focus well, even in darker situations. When you want to take a picture with this camera, there are three methods to focus your image, to compose your image. The first one is if you fold out this wire and this back piece, you can line them up and look through there and focus like this. It's a very crude way of focusing, but it works. You have a little bit parallax error because you're looking to the side of the lens. The second method is this finder, where you look down into, and there's a mirror which reflects to the front. It also has a bubble level so that you're able to keep your shot steady, and it also rotates for when you take a horizontal picture. Something that's kind of cool is that this thing folds in to make space when the front standard recesses into the body. Kind of neat. The third method, and the one which you really want to use nowadays, is of course the ground glass. And now I'm going to show you how you will go about taking a picture using the ground glass. So first you want to open up your lens. So you set it to on here it's in Cyrillic D. On a regular camera it would be T for time, and you open the shutter like this, so now the lens lets in light. Then you unfold this back, the ground glass cover here. It's a bit finicky sometimes. Usually there's a cord here which you can pull, but this one doesn't have it, so it's a little bit difficult. This cover also folds out to a nice shade, so it covers the ground glass from glare and it's a bit easier to look into. So now when you look through the camera, the image from the lens is projected onto the ground glass, and when you look from the back you can see it. Then you can compose and focus your shot. I should mention, you focus by pulling out this knob and rotating it. This will move the front standard back and forth. If you're not using the ground glass, there's a focusing scale here with a needle indicator to where you're focusing, so you can also zone focus. But when using the ground glass, you can see exactly which part of the picture is sharp back here. And when you have composed and focused your image, you would then fold this back in and completely remove the ground glass. This camera doesn't have the kind of modern way of pulling back the ground glass a bit and inserting the film holder in front of it. On these old cameras you have to completely take it off. When you have removed the ground glass, you take a film holder like this. So basically your film is in here. There's a dark side. If you pull it, your film lies open and is ready to be exposed. And you put this film holder where the ground glass was, slide it down like this, and there's a little latch here which locks it in place. And now you must not forget to close the lens, because otherwise if you pull the dark slide now, your film will be exposed and probably overexposed. So now everything is light tight in here. You can pull the dark slide now, but there's something to watch out for. I don't know in which camera models, just check for yours. I noticed with this one that when the lock is in and you pull your dark slide, the whole film holder slides up a little bit. And this creates a little slit in the bottom here, and that is enough to let in a little bit of light and fog your image. So what I do is I hold the film holder down and then pull the dark slide, and then I'm fine. So now that the film lies open, you of course calculate your exposure, set your aperture, set your shutter speed or bulb or whatever, and take your picture. After that, you slide the dark slide back in, and then you're done. You've taken a picture. The lens of this camera is, as I've mentioned before, a 135mm f4.5. The shutter is a very simple shutter with shutter speeds of 25th, 50th and 100th of a second, as well as bulb and time. The aperture ranges from 4.5 to 36, and what's really interesting here is that the maximum aperture is 4.5, as I've said, and then the markings on the aperture go one stop down from there. So the next f-stop is f6.3, then f9, f12.5, 18 and so on. It's kind of weird that you don't have your typical f-stops like f8, f5.6 and so on, but you get used to very quickly. And also this old lens, it is f4.5, but your t-stop, which determines how much light is actually going through, is probably higher. So what I do, I just say f4.5 is f5.6 from the amount of light that it lets in, and it has served me well. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the film holders. So many of these old 9x12 cameras were made for plates. So a photographic plate was a glass plate covered with an emulsion. And today these aren't really available. You can make them yourself, but it's kind of tedious, and I thought it would be great to use sheet film, and which I was able to do. So what I did was I bought some acrylic glass, some online service where you could give your measurements and they would laser cut it for you. But I will show later it can be done a lot easier than this. So, however, you put in this glass, snap it into place, and there are these metal things in here which push the glass outside to the plane where your film should be, and then you can put your film over this, and I will show this now. This is a 9x12 film sheet, and you have to do this in your dark bag or dark room, of course. I just slid it over this glass plate, snap it in like this, and now it's secure in here, it can't fall out. It's also flat, and well, it's not 100% flat, not as flat as a glass plate would be, but it does alright. And in practice I have found that even if it is not 100% flat, it's not such a big deal. The focus is very accurate anyways. So when you have your film in here, you can close the film holder, and now it's ready to take a picture. One other thing I found is The problem with these old cameras is getting film holders, so sometimes you will get a camera without film holders. And for this one, I got some film holders. These are the original ones. I have marked them here just to know which photo is in here. These are the original ones. It says Leningrad on here. And these are basically copies of the German film holders. This whole camera is basically a copy of an old Zeiss camera. And the cool thing about that is that the Zeiss film holders, like this one, will fit just as well as the original Leningrad ones. So if you need to find some film holders, you can also buy these. Something I wanted to show is how you can more easily put sheet film in here. So one method is glass or acrylic glass. On here I've just used cardboard, and that works perfectly as well. It's not quite as flat as acrylic glass, but again, in practice I found it doesn't make a big difference. So you can just cut some cardboard to size and use that. So if you use a camera like this today, one unfortunate thing is that you are limited to black and white photography, basically, because the 9x12 sized film is only made in black and white. The available films are from Ilford, the Delta 100 and the FP4 Plus, and from Fomapan, the 100, 200, 400 and the Retropan 320, and also the Rollei Ortho 25. So if you really want that vintage look of the old films, which were only could only see blue light, you might want to use the Ortho 25, which looks just like that. And also you can use Imago direct positive paper, which not a lot of people do, but it's also available in 9x12. And the Hamann direct positive paper by Ilford is unfortunately not available in 4x5. You would have to cut it down in the darkroom, which is doable since it's also orthochromatic, so you can do it under a safe light. Now if you want to shoot color film, that's a big problem because it's not available in this size. You would have to buy 4x5 film and cut it down to 9x12. But color film, you cannot expose it to any light, so you can't have a red safe light on in the dark room while cutting it. You would have to do it blind. That's really difficult. So basically I would say it's impossible, but you might be able to do it. This camera is for everyone who wants a light field camera, wants to shoot large format in the field, and who also wants to save some money, because this camera cost me about $60, and if you buy a professional newly manufactured field camera from like Shenhao or these other manufacturers, it will cost you about $1,000, so that's a big difference. What you lose compared to such a camera is, of course, you only have a fixed lens on this one, but it's a general purpose lens and it fits me for most purposes. That is really the main thing. And also you're stuck with this shutter, which only goes to about 1/100th of a second. But other than that, you don't really lose much. One advantage over the modern field cameras that this camera has is that it's smaller. It folds up really small into a little box, and it's also really light. So you can see if I fold this together and put it in the box, this thing fits your camera and your film holders, and it's pretty compact for a large format camera. So again, this camera is basically similar to all 9x12 cameras. If you want a camera like this, you don't have to buy the Fotokor-1. If you have money, you can buy a Voigtländer Bergheil, which is like $300 or something. It's much more nicely built, but it functions basically the same. And if you want to save some money, you can always look to Russian or Ukrainian made cameras. They are usually cheaper, like this one, and the quality is really great. This lens is perfect. If you stop it down, it's as sharp as any. Now I will show you some example pictures I've taken with this camera. This first one I have taken on a graveyard near where I live, and you can see at the top here that there is some light leak, and this was caused by the problem I described earlier, where the film holder slides up a little bit when pulling the dark slide and creates this slit at the bottom, and yeah, it has created this light leak. It's not terrible, but just so you know, this is an avoidable problem. And if we zoom in here, you can also see that the detail is really good. Like, you might think that an old camera, like a camera like this from the 1930s, would produce kind of soft images, but it's quite the opposite. It's extremely sharp. So here's the second picture. It was made at a fountain in the city where I live, and there are these kind of creepy masks hanging there, which look like decapitated heads. And you can see here that even though I made my do-it-yourself approach to inserting the film into the holder, and the film probably wasn't exactly in the right position, the focus is spot on the eye of the mask here. So as I've said, the film doesn't have to be perfectly positioned. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope I could raise some appetite for these kind of old cameras. Yeah, so keep shooting.